All right, that's the intro song done. I saw this article yesterday. Netanyahu accusing Starmer of being on the wrong side of humanity by siding with Hamas, and with these people, yeah, with people like Netanyahu, it's not enough to support them militarily. Any condemnation of them immediately leads to massive accusations because siding with Israel is being on the wrong side of humanity. Because look at what they're doing. Like it's the accusations of genocide. It's wow. It's massive amounts of projection on their side. Netanyahu launched a blistering attack on Starmer and Macron, as well as Mark Carney. There was an attack on the Israeli embassy, and an attack on an embassy is generally seen as an attack on that specific country. Um, So, everyone's condemned the attack. Danish has pointed to Keir Starmer's condemnation of the Washington attack in that post. Starmer called anti-Semitism an evil we must stamp out. All three countries denounced the Washington killings, which saw embassy workers Yaron Lichinsky, 30, and Sarah Lynn Milgram, 26, shot dead at an event hosted by Capital Jewish Museum. The suspect, Elias Rodriguez of Chicago, repeatedly shouted "Free Palestine," and he was arrested. And I'll be honest, anyone who does this kind of stuff, you're not helping the cause. You will justify everything Israel is saying because you take the heat off them by doing stuff like this. This is not how you help anyone beyond helping yourself. Sorry, gain infamy. That's all you'll do. Attacking embassy workers is not it. In addition to condemning Wednesday shooting, UK, France, Canada, close allies of Israel have come out strong support of Israel. All of this, like the amount of support that Israel have had. The fact that UK is flying spy planes over Gaza as well, like all of that, and minor condemnation. And it's led to a full kind of breakdown because Netanyahu. This is how he wins the narrative battle. Any kind of pushback, he immediately says, "Oh, you're siding with terrorists, you're anti-Semitic," and then everyone gets scared. But as people pointed out before, like if you're calling everything and everyone anti-Semite, then nothing is an anti-Semite. It loses all meaning. Netanyahu said Hamas wanted to destroy Israel, annihilate the Jewish people. He said Palestinian armed group had welcomed the joint UK, French, and Canadian criticism of Israel's war conduct. Well, obviously they have. Like what would they say? Oh, stay out of this UK. Like, it doesn't make any sense. In his video, Netanyahu said Hamas. We mentioned that. This is Netanyahu saying, "I say to President Macron, Prime Minister Carney, Prime Minister Starmer, when mass murderers, rapists, baby killers, and kidnappers thank you, you're on the wrong side of justice. What about when a genocidalist thanks you? Well, what does that tell you?" Um, he attacks the UN, saying about the starvation figures and things like that. This is what the UN are saying: 24% of their population is in crisis, 54% in emergency, 22% in catastrophe, and you're gonna have more and more people dying of starvation, of very, very avoidable deaths here. Former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert described current Israeli administration as a gang of thugs. And one of the things that Israel needs to understand is they might be expanding now. They've taken more land in Syria. They're going to take more parts of Gaza. But long term, this is not sustainable. What they are doing. There are lots and lots of countries turning against them. Spain are really leading the charge on this. Spain, Ireland, Norway are the main European countries that are leading the charge on this. But I think this will become a much, much bigger political issue. And you're going to get more MPs and more politicians running on this to, essentially running on an anti-Israeli ticket in Western countries. Is tragic. This absolute goon.
I have
And this clip here from this right winger Tim Stanley, he's not some lefty wokey. Tim Stanley, very very right wing. This guy, very conservative at least. This guy.
to ask the Tories and Labour, what does Netanyahu have to do for you to finally decide that he's gone too far and that Britain should actually be suspending other forms of aid and implying other kinds of...
It should be full embargo. It should be a full embargo. It should be sanctions. That's any other country doing this. Russia has done this. Sanctions. So this is just, it's ludicrous that Israel have been treated with kid gloves here. It's that the bare minimum. It should be sanctions, bare minimum. But we're still arming them. We're still giving them stuff. It's crazy. Um, Got people in chat. Hi Roshin. Hi Moshud. Hi Kieran. Hello. Nena Sadie. I'm gonna say that is. But yeah, it's just what more does he have to do? Like, you've seen him absolutely just destroy Gaza, turn it into rubble. Absolutely no, there's no inhabitable place. Areas completely uninhabitable. You've got healthcare workers whose houses are being targeted. There was a doctor who, it was nine of her children, I think, were killed in an airstrike while she was at work. They know what they're doing. They have enough technology to know who they're targeting here, and they're punishing healthcare workers because that's what they want to do. They're the people keeping people alive. You break them, there's no one left to save people. They attacked a bunch of ambulances recently, and then they lied about what happened, and they had to backtrack on what happened. Honestly, this is the most, probably the most difficult conflict that there is to cover right now. Honestly, the Russia-Ukraine one, horrible. This one's just so much worse. So much worse. It's not a competition, but it's so much worse. I did want to discuss the UK EU stuff as well. Starmer's New Deal, Badenoch kind of fumbling it really badly.
Difficult place right now because she hasn't really got anything that differentiates her party in any way at all now. She's not supportive of the trade deal, clearly, that's fine, she's the opposition. But she hasn't managed to pick holes in it that would actually say, well, you could have gone here, or you could have done that, or that's kind of falling apart at the seams.
She's mentioned fishing. It's dumb because the UK has no choice but to agree a deal on fishing, because the EU will say, cool, fishing is. Yeah, I did a video last year where the EU could do. Wow, was it last year? Or was it 2 years ago? Wow, time flies. How the EU can start a trade deal in a week, and it would be over fishing.
That doesn't really sort of look as if it's presenting very much. So she's gone reform light. She is the Diet Coke of Nigel Farage, really. And people are kind of going, well, look, either have full fat reform, or else take something that's going to make all your lives easier, or go even further to the Ed Davey side, which is like, we love Europe, we love the EU, we want it all.
No, they can't do that. They can't be the party of rejoin the EU. Not now. Not right now. They need another decade to pass before they can start talking about that kind of stuff.
Back. I don't think she has a place at the moment in British politics, and it's a really weird thing to say about the party that's been so dominant in the national conversation for the last 2 decades.
There's a poll today that shows them in fourth place.
Interestingly, I wonder whether actually it's the opposite of what you said, Emily. That she's not reform light. She's outflanking reform in terms of the opposition to the trade deal as a way of trying to shore up support for the Conservative Party and trying to kind of pick off reform voters and say, look how tough we are. Betrayal of Britain, surrender.
The thing with this argument is the Conservatives are already seen as the party of surrendering to the EU when we signed the agreements that we signed, with the fact that we agreed to pay off the pension liabilities, the fact that we got a deal with the EU that was seen as a betrayal, the fishing agreement we have with the EU that was seen as a betrayal, the stuff in Northern Ireland seen as a betrayal. So this argument makes no sense because Badenoch was part of the cabinet. She's too close. That's why she was a bad pick. They should have gone with Tug on his hat.
All these words that seem kind of so inappropriate for this little squeaky mouse of a deal that Keir Starmer has come up with, given where you could have gone in terms of,
not another decade to rejoin the EU. It's going to take longer than that, but I think the Conservatives shouldn't be talking about rejoining the EU for another decade. That's what I'm saying.
A trade
deal. How
deal.
strongly do you feel about phyto-pharma?
Exactly. Right. I'm furious about e-gates. I could not be more angry about the fact that I'm not going to have to queue up anymore.
Well, you probably will have to. That's the irony. You almost certainly will. We're going to get one more John Sopel Geneva Airport Memorial tweet before it's done.
Yeah, that's not done yet, and I'm going to do a video on that as well. But she's just hopeless.
Winter fuel. Let's try and get some more information. I'm going to ask him a simple question. It only requires one word, yes or no. Is he planning to U-turn on winter fuel cuts?
Yeah. Yes. Prime Minister.
What? Mr. Speaker, I made clear in my earlier answer that as the economy improves, we want to take measures that will impact on people's lives, and therefore we will look at the threshold, but that will have to be part of a fiscal event. But, Mr. Speaker...
I've taken off my glasses so I can simply, people can hear me slap myself on the head.
Having taken off your...
What's she doing?
Having taken off your glasses, Tim Shipman, are you planning on taking off your glasses?
Oh, my giddy aunt.
What
just happened? He's literally just done that, and you're doing it as your fourth question.
Is she trying to get him? I mean, okay, let's be kind. I can understand that maybe the strategy...
So there's been a massive briefing about how the Labour are going to U-turn on the winter fuel cuts, and I think it's pretty much confirmed they will. Why she's asking about it doesn't make sense.
There is to get him to say... Because he's got to either say yes or no.
Ask him something specific about the U-turn. Don't say, are you U-turning? Say, can you confirm that you are going to move the threshold? Or are you going to... Ask him a specific question about how he might do it.
But maybe she wants him to say, I just did.
I mean, I think what she's trying to say is, what she would say is, are you going to U-turn? He would say yes, and then she would say, what kind of U-turn are you doing? Because if you come up with a question of, are you going to raise the threshold change the threshold on winter fuel allowance? And he'd be like, no, there's no U-turn or some nonsense. Like this is like such a dumb clip.
Or something, I don't know.
Oh my God.
No.
I don't know what happened there. I was immediately thinking, why do you not just ask him the same question that you didn't answer? You've asked him about tax rises. He clearly doesn't want to talk about that, so ask him again. And instead she...
Yeah, that's why. He's the double tap king. He loves asking. He 2 questions, he still kills someone.
Asked him the question he'd already answered at the start. That was pretty... Yeah, that was different.
But again, it wasn't easy.
U-turn on disability. No, the thing is, she don't care about that stuff. Yeah, she will support that. She supports them policies.
For him to answer, because he couldn't be, I just did.
Well, well, maybe that was the play, to properly confuse all of us to such an extent that the Prime Minister didn't know what to say.
Yeah, I don't know. This clip ain't it. But yeah, discussing the deal. We're going to start with a clip from Priti Patel here, where they discuss it.
If you recall, back in 2016, the British people said...
Do you know what? We've covered Labour and Reform so much, right? I've kind of forgotten about the Conservative Party, and I've forgotten, because we covered, some of those ministers so much, like Priti Patel, Braverman, not too much on Jenrick, Penny Mordaunt, Sunak, Boris Johnson, Kwasi Kwarteng. We covered these guys, these people so much, right? It was kind of like, I've kind of forgotten the way they speak, their mannerisms, and all of this stuff. It's a bit bizarre.
That they wanted an end to all of that. Now, there is a problem here. There is an issue, which is the government were not honest and they were not transparent with the public. And I have to say, they were not in Parliament yesterday being held to account on this too, as to why they've swung in that...
I think Labour Party will U-turn on the winter fuel cuts because they're the ones... That's the cut that's doing the most damage in polling.
...that direction.
Dominic Arab. Who is that? Dominic Arab. That sounds like a code name.
Without being upfront and honest that was their original end game.
Well, I mean, clearly they very clearly campaigned on suggesting they'd reset relations with the EU. And
in all honesty, I will never forget Dominic Raab because he spawned the sea was closed meme. Let me see if I can find it. It's one of my favourites. I wish I had it. Dominic Raab. Let's see if I can find the actual... Oh, it's so annoying. I don't know if I can find the Spider-Man meme of it. Nah, it's not it, but yeah. The sea was closed. One of the great quotes of our time. He couldn't he wasn't, as everything kicked off in Afghanistan. He was on holiday and then he says, yeah, the sea was closed. Oh, they got a t-shirt. See if they still got this. Yeah, the sea was nice. It's quite nice actually. I wouldn't pay £20 for a t-shirt, but that's quite nice. But yeah, the sea was closed, guys.
And in terms of ECJ oversight, I think it's fair to say it's only on food regulations. Is that a worthwhile trade-off?
Yeah. Also, he read the Good Friday Agreement, but he hadn't read it cover to cover.
To allow food to be and veterinary products to be exported more freely?
Of course it's not. It isn't, because we don't know the full details. So let's, before everyone just sort of says this is going to be wonderful for food exports into...
So why are you here? If you're saying just hang on, we need to see the details of the deal. What was the point of this segment? Just what was the point of doing this news piece?
To the EU. We actually haven't seen the full details. And I have to say, having been in government previously, I was involved in some of the security negotiations at the time. And of course, different parts of the government machinery covered agriculture, food, fishing, lots of transitional arrangements. And Britain, post-Brexit, after the referendum, we had to have a transitional framework and arrangements. And we knew the TCA, you go back and have those talks and discussions. But the important principle here, and it is about principle, is ensuring that some of those red lines associated with Brexit, that 70...
What red lines associated with Brexit?
million people voted for and sent a clear instruction to the government of the day. It was important that those red lines...
You had an in-out referendum. There was no red lines or anything. You cannot make this argument. You can say, Theresa May ran on, get Brexit done, cutting down immigration, no free movement. She didn't even win a majority. So does that count? Not really. Boris Johnson just ran on, essentially full exit of the EU. So you can make the argument against free movement, but then you'd have to make the argument against free movement of goods, capital, and services, which, did people vote for that? So I don't think this is a very good argument from Patel here, to be honest. And, has it actually made trade easier? Yeah.
To the EU?
Near impossible, really, because from the outset of the transition period...
This is the Cheshire Cheese Man. I feel like we cover him once in a while on the channel. He pops up.
2021, we realised that there was no consumer allowance for selling cheese via our web sales, so that was our first hit.
So what, individuals couldn't buy it anymore?
Yeah, that still exists. I don't know whether that has been actually reset as well. Actually, it'd be really good if it could, but it meant that sort of fast-growing e-commerce business was flattened overnight, costing a loss of around about £250,000 instantly.
And what the cost is? What exactly?
The cost that are put on top for trade sales, in particular, that's the main thing. Let's just remember now that consumer is completely off the table. You cannot send a single piece of cheese to anybody in Europe, and for trade, it's the added incumbency of having to have a veterinary check off every consignment with what's called a health certificate, an EH.
So every individual consignment of cheese has to be checked. So he can't just send you like a block of cheddar. That has to be checked. You need a vet certificate for all that stuff, and that's why small businesses have been hammered so badly by this.
So that health certificate was typically £150, £160. There was the paperwork, which could take 2 or 3, 4 hours sometimes to complete. And if there was an inaccuracy, your consignment was sent back. There was the checks, everything going out was stopped and checked. So therefore, the cost of transport rocketed because the...
it'd probably be like 30 years, potentially, for the UK to rejoin the EU, to be honest. It'd be a while.
The carriers were saying, well, you're difficult to deal with.
Yeah.
Consequently, within 6 to 12 months, our distribution said, I'm sorry, you're just too difficult to deal with. We'll trade internally within the EU, which was, frictionless, which is they didn't want the hassle any longer.
So it's had a massive
Kieran, what are you cooking?
impact on your business.
Massive impact, yeah.
It's caused, like, from what I remember, he had to set up a facility in, like, France. No, he had to move a lot of his operation to France, because France have a strong agricultural sector, but also to send consignments from there. It's the easiest way for him to transport goods between, I guess, the non-EU member and the EU member. I'm amazed he didn't go for Northern Ireland, to be honest. I thought Northern Ireland would have made more sense, but
When you saw what's been agreed yesterday in terms of talking about I mean, there's still so many details to be determined. Do you feel that what Sir Keir Starmer has negotiated is going to help businesses like yours?
Yes, it will, definitely.
Because it's going to cut down paperwork, which is the main issue. Well, it's not the main issue, it's a major issue. And the whole idea of being rule takers and all of this stuff.
But the text of the deal says the UK should be involved at an early stage and contribute appropriately for a country that's not a member of the EU to contribute to the decision-making process.
So this is the same thing I think that Norway and Switzerland get, which is you don't get a say on EU rules, but they will. It's not a consultation. It's more like I think it's more like a courtesy call than anything.
Process. So no veto if the UK doesn't like those EU rules. In the end, the EU will make the rules. Everyone knows that.
So firstly, there is a rule-shaping role for the United Kingdom before you even have the new regulation.
With no veto.
Secondly, it doesn't apply automatically. You then have to have, appropriate legislation, whether it's from the statutory instrument and so on, in Parliament. So therefore, it has to go through Parliament. Thirdly, if there is then a dispute, there's then an independent arbitration panel. Now,
and if it comes down on the side of the EU, the UK.
How could they think they'd have a veto? Because we're England, pal. England veto this, veto that. It's because what she's doing is she's just explaining what are the mechanisms within the agreement. So she's saying we don't have a veto. So if the EU comes up with new rules, the UK is going to have to follow them in order to kind of keep the SPS agreement we have, which obviously makes sense, because this is more. I think this is more about alignment rather than equivalency. So that makes sense. There's an arbitration panel, which also makes sense. Which they have arbitration for disputes within the Northern Ireland Protocol as well. So I think this is quite a normal thing for the EU to do for the UK. But I think ultimately, just like with the Northern Ireland Protocol, it will go to the European Court of Justice if arbitration is not agreed.
Have to either rip up the deal or accept the rules.
But come on.
That's the bottom line.
But come on, that is
I've just taken it to its logical conclusion. That is accurate, isn't it?
And to be fair, Derbyshire, she's correct here. Like she's not wrong in what she said, which is if there is a dispute, which it could happen with a future government full of dum-dums. It could happen with this current government that's full of dum-dums. If there is some sort of dispute, it will go to arbitration. If arbitration can't resolve it, it will go to the ECJ, and then after that, you either accept it or you don't. The ECJ, the Brexiteers will hate that. Yeah, the European Court of Injustice.
In the end, in any trade deal, if you agree to an arbitration panel to deal with...
She's probably the best at the moment. One second, I'm just going to grab my phone, but she's probably the best. I'll be honest. If they gave her the Sunday show, it'd be so much better. I'd actually watch it. I would actually cover it live, honestly. Well, not live, but I would actually cover the BBC Sunday morning show.
Disputes. Sometimes it's going to find against you. Yeah. Sometimes it's going to find for you.
So you will have to accept rules.
But the point, of course, you have to accept rules with any trade deal. I never dispute.
I mean, she's got to let me speak a little bit because with any agreement, you always have rules. There's a base standard in terms of workers' rights and things like that. And if you go below those standards, there will be mechanisms in place to deal with it. Like the Trans-Pacific Partnership that has mechanisms or secret courts, etc. At least this one's public.
You did that point, Victoria. Of course, you have to have a set of rules. My point is, if you have any trade arrangement, you have to accept an arbitration mechanism, and you have to accept it will find against you sometimes, it will find in favour of you at others. That is the nature of trade.
So yeah, she's correct here in most of what she's saying. Well, pretty much all of what she's saying, really, and he's not 100% wrong either. It's just he hasn't really explained it that well, in my opinion. But we go to kind of the meat and potatoes of the deal with Sam Coates. No, Ed Conway. I keep confusing these two. That's not good.
The main thing Keir Starmer wants you to know about this, the UK-EU deal, is that it's a big deal. Lots of money generated by it for the economy. But does that really stack up? Here's how much the government says it's going to generate. £9 billion. That's the impact on GDP come 2040. So you've got to compare that with what is actual GDP to get a sense of how that compares. So here's actual GDP, and oh dear, it's bigger than the actual screen. We're going to have to change the scale on this. Look, we're going to squidge it back so you can see that's the actual GDP, and now we've squidged the axis. That's £4.1 trillion. That 9 billion looks a wee bit small, doesn't it? In fact, if you kind of work out what that is as a percentage of that, it's 0.2% of GDP. Not very big. Bigger, though, than the India deal, it should be said, which was 0.1% of GDP, but still relatively small in the scheme of things. And actually, if you take that 2%, so that's basically from the food standards, changing in food standards, emissions, they say that could generate this, £9 billion.
Yeah, they could give the gerbil a show, yeah.
Add on what you might generate from the youth mobility scheme. That's a really optimistic estimate, 0.45%. It might not get to that, but best case scenario.
I mean, it could go the opposite way. I mean, you could have more young people leave the UK and go to the EU to work there.
And then a few other things as well. You might, from all of the things that are being talked about in this deal, you might get to 0.8% of GDP benefits. How does that stack up, though? Because we've been told by lots
of... Britannia waives the rules, though. Do the people in this country care about the economy, or is it something... It's mostly just anti-immigration, bro, I'll be honest. Like, I think that's what most of the country's about.
Economists, you may not believe this stuff, but the economists say there will be a dent from Brexit. So does that make up for the dent? The short answer is no, because that, according to the Office of Budget Responsibility, is the dent. That's the impact of Brexit from having more friction in terms of trade.
And so the thing to remember is, with this deal, it's not trying to replace this, because it can't. What it's trying to do is improve on the crappy deal that we got when we left the EU. It's trying to replace the trade and cooperation agreement. Oops. That's what these agreements are aiming to do, is to add on to that, because you can't replicate this outside of the EU. You can't. It's impossible.
And when you take that away from that, you end up with that. So it is a net.
It's not just the economy. It's more.
Minus 3.2% of GDP rather than plus. The UK economy is smaller as a result of all of this when you take everything.
And also, this up here, the 0.8, is very optimistic.
To account. There's all sorts of other parts to this, of course. So you've got what's happening to migration. So it'll be easier now as a student in the EU to work on a course in the UK. And that's mostly to address the fact that since those Brexit rules came into place, look at EU immigration. And this is all immigration, OK? But look at EU immigration. It's gone down a lot, whereas non-EU has gone up. And that holds as well, particularly for educational courses. So it's all about trying to bring EU migration up a little bit and this down a little bit. And then you've got other things as well. Fishing quotas turns out to be one of the biggest stories here. And those quotas, it's really complex, by the way. So what we've done here is we've taken lots of different species of fish and showed you broadly what's happened to those quotas since Brexit's come in. And broadly speaking, they have tended to come down a little bit. But the key point here is that those are now going to be set in stone. So the quotas basically stay where they are for the next 12 years. Final point to make, OK? A lot of what we've heard about from the Prime Minister, it sounds...
There was a clip. There was a thing I saw about fishing where they talked about how the UK sold a lot of their fishing quotas. So, and the reasons behind why the UK sold all of our fishing quotas. And so, with the fishing stuff, it's such a red herring, pun intended.
It's like it's very formal here, but...
It's mostly anti-immigration, bro, I'll be honest. It's anti-immigration. That's what a lot of people vote for. It's annoyed about... a lack of public services, things like that. I think that, even if the economy is doing okay, I think people are still mad about stuff.
Keynote within this document, and there's a whole host of words that we got released. The keynote here is to say this is not legally binding. These are exploratory talks. And so although there's lots of talk about what's actually happening here, for the time being, we don't know if it's really going to be in black and white.
So that's the important bit is, a lot of this stuff is gas. That's the problem. Like with the e-gates and stuff, it's up to individual member states right now, currently, and there's no guarantee because I think France already allowed the UK to use e-gates. Does France? I'm pretty sure this is the case. Let's have a look. So Britons will not be able to use e-gates until October at the earliest. So Conway's right. I'm just wondering if there is an agreement with France. Oh, bitch. Oh, that's annoying. I wanted to ask specifically about France. No, it doesn't look like it. Does it allow us to do it for France? That's the question. No, see, like, because the thing is, he took a dig. According to Reddit, France allows it. I don't know if anyone else does. Does anyone know? The thing is, even if you use the e-gates, you still need to get your passport stamped as well. So it does make some difference, but not as much difference as like if we're still members of the EU properly, or even outside the single market, I guess. I saw Michael Hesselstein saying regarding fishing licenses have been sold. Yeah, a lot of it's sold because they don't want to bother fishing. It's just, I think it's just easier for them just to sell the license. So there's nothing in here guaranteeing it until October. So at least October and possibly well into 26, despite high-profile e-gates agreement in Monday's agreement. So there's nothing concrete about this. There's nothing concrete about this at all. And it could be the EU could be doing this because they're changing system anyways to what's it called, to ETIAS. Is that the name of their new system? The new entry exit system, EES. That's such a shit acronym. ETIAS was so much better. And so yeah, so that could be why the EU are happy to give us to talk about e-gates, because they're moving to a whole new system anyways. Not being put until October, so they talked a big game about all these e-gates and stuff. October's way past summer. Last time I checked, he argued that the move will allow British travellers to use the e-gates was one of the core elements of the deal, which is not true. This partnership's help British holiday makers will be able to use e-gates when they travel. So this is all nonsense. So anyone who's actually read this, anyone who actually thinks we can use the e-gates in the summer, yeah, good luck with that if you're not going to like Portugal.
From today's UK-EU agreement. Well, let's look at 4 key areas. First, fishing rights. Who wins here? Well, the EU fishing industry will benefit from a further 12 years of...
Does Benju normally talk this fast? Fucking hell.
Access to UK waters. That's much longer than expected, and some in the UK fishing industry wanted annual negotiations after 2026. However, it's important to bear in mind that the EU consumer market is important for UK fishermen. In 2023, the UK exported £1.2 billion of fish to the EU, around 70% of all fish exports.
And for anyone who thinks, the EU will just, the EU will have to buy the fish, they can't buy from elsewhere. They actually can. There are so many countries within the EU, right, to the point where they can, for the most part, replace British fish with other kinds of fish. It might not be the exact kind they want, but they can do it. Hi, Casper. They can do it, and they've already done it with shellfish from the UK. We used to sell the EU C-grade shellfish. Can't remember the exact kind, and we can't do that anymore because our water's all polluted, and the EU doesn't accept C-grade stuff that's unpurified. There's a whole process they have to go through, right? And so where do they buy it from? France buy it from Croatia instead. So, we are very much replaceable given the size of the EU. Not just east-west, but also north-south. So the stuff we have is replaceable for the most part. Why are they so focused on fishing? It's because of Farage. That's why they're so focused on fishing, because Farage made it such a big topic during the Brexit referendum, but also now. Farage has been probably the second most influential the first in the UK definitely, and probably in the top 5 in the West. Top 5. You gotta, you still like Victor Orban and people like that, but what Farage has done is incredible, given the fact that he's just been an MEP through most of it. Like his achievement is very crazy when you think about who he was.
Contribution of fishing to the UK economy in 2024 was around £880 million, equivalent to around 0.04% of GDP. The UK food manufacturing sector is...
There's nothing on financial services in this agreement, as far as I'm aware.
...substantially larger, worth £27.8 billion last year, around 1% of GDP. And that's where the Prime Minister has won a concession from the EU, a deal to reduce post-Brexit paperwork on food exports. Now, as this shows, UK food export volumes to the EU are down around 34% relative to 2019, which the industry attributes in part to that new paperwork. One recent study suggests such a deal could boost UK agricultural and food export sales by around 20%, which would be beneficial to those who work in this sector in Britain. However, the quid pro quo is that the UK will have to follow EU rules on food standards and accept final oversight of the European Court of Justice in case of any disputes. Third, let's take a look at defence.
So this is the big one. Food exports was a big one. It's the defence budget. That's what the UK wanted access to more than anything, because we got shut out last time under the Tories.
The EU has established a Security Action for Europe, or SAFE fund, with 150 billion euros of loans backed by the EU budget to enable its member states to ramp up their defence capabilities. Initially, this was going to be spent on EU-based defence firms, but thanks to the Security and Defence Partnership today, EU countries may also be able to spend some of that with UK defence companies, which would be a benefit for that sector and those who...
It'll be huge, because the UK defence industry is very, in terms of weapons makers, it's very strong.
Working it here in Britain, especially because the UK currently has a large defence manufacturing industry relative to many EU states.
Okay, yeah, because that's one of the things we're good at, is selling weapons to other countries.
Finally, youth mobility, which is being branded a youth experience scheme. Now, the details here are still to be confirmed, but the winners would be those young people aged 18 to 30 from both the UK...
Oh, my time's almost up, guys. I've got just over a year to make value out of this scheme. Look what they took from me.
UK and EU who will be able to work and study more easily across Europe and Great Britain. However, the impact could be uneven. Before Brexit, it's overwhelmingly likely more young people from the EU came to the UK than went the other way. So experts think this scheme could potentially put some upward pressure on the levels of short-term net migration to the UK. As for the question of which side is the overall winner or loser from this...
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, fishing's not worth... Fishing is more like... The whole conversation around fishing is so dumb, because the UK doesn't even eat that much fish, for a start, right? Compared to chicken and beef, right? And lamb, right? So that's your first problem. The second problem is the fish we actually want to eat is not fish that is found around the UK. The fish that we want is cod and haddock. That's found in near Norway, for the most part. Like salmon is one we eat, sure, but cod and haddock are the main ones, I think. That's not even found around here. So you have to have an agreement with Norway in order to get the fish. You either send our fishing fleets over there because it's not that far, or you do some sort of agreement where they can just land the fish here and sell it directly to us. But the fish that we want is not the fish that is domestic to us. That's how dumb this whole conversation is around fishing.
Agreement. That's not easy to answer. It will depend on the value people place on different industries.
Classic BBC impartiality, like the deal's a plus. You know, the deal's a plus for more industries than it's a minus. Therefore, it's a good deal. You know, as long as it wasn't collapsing British fishing, because even if right, you've sold all of these agreements, what fish does Britain actually produce? It's mostly sardine. Let's have a look. Actually, that's a good question. It's like sardines and like oily fish, and like fish around the UK. So what kind of fish are in the UK? Let's have a look. So half of these I've never heard of. Okay. So I'm assuming is that sea bream? Common carp, which, okay. Chub, don't know what that is. Common dace, don't know what that is. Eel, grim. Pike, I know what that is because of RuneScape. Roach, that sounds like a cockroach. Cod, which there is cod around the UK, but it's not that much because of the way the fish migrate. Gudgeon, that sounds like a weapon. Perch, that's what cats and birds do. Rainbow trout, I've heard of that one. Tench, nope. Atlantic salmon, so it's two kinds of salmon you can get around the UK, I guess. Bass, sea bass, brill, bullhead, minnow, stone loach, anchovies, which again they're not that popular in the UK. Ballan wrasse, mackerel, which I think is popular. Is that what mackerel looks like? Jesus Christ. Pollock, which isn't that popular either. That's like the poor man's kind of cod. River lamprey, oh, God knows what that is. And three-spined stickleback, which again sounds like some sort of weapon. So, you know, it's not great. So the big five species make up around 80% of the fish we consume in the UK, but they're not here. Look, you look at the big five, right? Cod, haddock, salmon, tuna, and prawns. That's not really around here, so yeah. So yeah, like I said, like it's not it. There's a whole picture I saw a couple of years ago, which kind of showed it quite well, like the different kinds of fish around the UK. But that's when I used to cover this stuff a lot more. So yeah, I never tried most of them. Probably should. I think there is some good stuff you can get if you live on the south coast. Hey, I need to ask my friend if there's a fish market near his house. Actually, that's a good idea. I might go try some out. So yeah, no, that's a good idea. I thought we found fish more than we caught. It probably do, but it's not. I don't think like farm salmon is that popular. A lot of them we are breed for bait and coarse fishing, so they use them for sport. Okay, that makes sense. Mackerel are delicious when fresh. Yeah, mackerel is a good one. But for the most part, like a lot of that fish is not fish that we eat around here. Is like tuna. I don't think that's native to the UK. Herring is. I think herring's more Dutch. I think the Dutch like pickled herring. That's more of a Dutch fish, I think. Mussels aren't that popular. Mussels is like a weird. It's what freaky people have. They're diddy people. That's they're the people who have mussels, or the French, but and Spanish people. But they're people of culture. They eat them for different reasons. Do we have tuna on the south coast? All right. Where do tuna swim? We have tuna on the south coast of England. You sure? Okay, this map is not helpful. Migration of bluefin tuna. Okay, I suppose, yeah, okay. I'm assuming is that us? This is not it. Yeah, a little bit. It would come off. It's not really the south coast though. It'd be the off Scotland again. It goes around Ireland. Yeah. So you remember fishing now is a lot smaller than it was back in 2016. Even more behind. Yeah. It's not a big industry. It's just it got turned. It got turned into a big issue because of Farage and those fishermen because they were so loud. And for some reason people brought into this idea that it was such an important thing when it was worth very little to the economy. It's worth a lot to these towns and cities. Don't get it wrong. Like there's a reason why Norway pushed back so aggressively when the UK started playing games over fish. There's a reason why the French started kicking off when we were not giving out fishing licenses and things like that. It's because their voters will kick off. Why do you think Norway has such high tariffs on things like imported cheese? It's to protect their own industries, the Nordic farmers. That's why they have it, because Nordic farmers are a strong voting bloc. And the politicians know that. And so as soon as they get into power, they will do everything they can not to piss those people off. And that's the thing the UK lacks. The Conservative Party have gambled for decades that farmers will always back them. So if they piss off the farmers, they piss off the fishermen, who they're going to vote for? Labour. Labour didn't care about the farmers and the fishermen. And so they only really had the Conservatives to vote for. And they've been completely cooked by these agreements. It's so bad. It's so bad. There's only 0.7% of the economy. Yeah, it's only worth a lot to these fishing towns and villages, the ones that rely on fishing as an industry. There are things you can do like deindustrialization, I guess, of this, or not deindustrialization, but you can kind of try and retrain people in these areas and things like that. But I don't know what you would transition them onto. At least with manufacturing work, you can find something else for them to manufacture. With oil rigs, you can see if you can move them into some sort of green technology or something else. But with fishing, it's like I don't know what you would move them to.
I'm down here at Bucky Harbour this morning. I've just heard the news that Labour have capitulated on the deal with the European Union. 2038 fishing.
My brother, honestly, it's the same deal that the Tories made with the EU. They've just extended it into 2038. So if you were mad then fair. If you've only just become annoyed now, then shut up.
Boats, European fishing boats will have access to our waters until 2038 and no new quota. That is worse than anything we could have imagined. Now there might be some benefits.
I mean, it could be worse. So what if I thought they were going to extend the deal to 2050?
to the processing sector that might be able to access the EU markets through the new VET agreement, but that's not the point. The point is that when we came out of the common fisheries policy, we promised to give fishermen back control of our waters.
And sell the fish to who? Sell the fish to who, mate? Aquaman? Who you selling the fish to? Because the fish we have around here is not the fish that people want to eat. Because if people wanted to eat that fish, you wouldn't sell it abroad, you sell it here. Absolute donut. I live near, I don't know how to pronounce that, on the east coast of Fife, and it has 2 amazing fish and chip shops. North is something in Scotland, and do world-renowned smoked haddocks. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, in these local areas, this stuff's great. But the thing is, like, the further from the coast you go, you know, like, I live in the Midlands. Fish isn't a big deal here. So, you know, like, it's the way it is. Like, you wouldn't find... You know what, I'll tell you, right? One of the things that I learnt in school is it's Combin's first rule. That's what I called it. Shouts out Mr. Combin, my history teacher. We called him Pochettino Combin because his first name was boring. And so we renamed him Pochettino Combin. So if you ever hear this, Pochettino, mate, we could call this Combin's first rule, which is if you don't live near the sea, don't buy fish. And I read that as if you don't live near fresh fish, don't eat fish. And, you know, I have not lived by that rule, but it's one I remember from school. So I don't really, yeah, so that's one of the reasons why I don't think fish is that popular outside of coastal areas. Now, because I'm going to a coastal area, I might try and... Yeah, do you know what? I'm going to ask my friend. Yeah. He might be watching this now, but if he's not, I'll ask him. See if there's any good fish areas near where he lives. I heard it's like the best place for fish in the UK. Probably is. I mean, it makes some sense. I mean, Scotland has a lot of, you know, access to salmon and other kinds of good fish. So, you know, if I ever go to the Scottish coast, which I'm never going, not unless you guys hold an event and I'm invited and it's all expenses paid, which is never going to happen, I will not be there no matter what. But, you know, I'll take your word for it, guys.
We should have at least got something from that today. Labour has sold us completely out.
And, you know, as Max says, who's this idiot? So, you know, this guy's an absolute clown. Common sense for a change. Scottish Conservative and Unionist. Oh my god, it's the Scottish fucking I've been had this absolute donut page retweet something from the Scottish Conservatives. Oh my god, this bro, like, he must have been asleep for a while, honestly. And you got Bad Notch talking about how we're going to reverse this agreement.
This fisheries policy doesn't meet your tests, but you also point out that the deal allows the EU to impose massive tariffs on the UK if we renege on the deal. Yeah. So if you win the next election, will you cancel the deal and accept the tariffs from the EU, or will you leave it in place?
This deal does not work for UK fishing. We said that if it was something that failed our tests, we would reverse it. This fails the test, so we will reverse it.
You accept the tariffs? Accept
the tariffs on fishing. Well,
it won't be just tariffs on fishing. It'll be tariffs. They could cancel the whole trade and cooperation agreement over this. And I'm not being dramatic when I say that. It's because one of the reasons we got that trade deal was because of fishing. You know, the idea that we're going to put tariffs on EU goods is ludicrous. It'll be impossible for us to do it. We don't have the facilities to do it.
This is what trade negotiating is. You stop something, you put something else in its place. So that means a new renegotiation.
It's not. Look, the trade deal you got with the EU, it sucks. It's rubbish. It's garbage for them. And so for these people to come up with this argument, it makes no sense at all. It's just, no, you're not gonna put, like, the whole thing. What you're going back to is a no deal Brexit at that point. Like, you're not gonna renegotiate a better deal because you would have done that whilst you were a member of cabinet. Or if you thought you could have done better, you would have resigned there and then.
Par for the course in trade. Trade deals are not static. You review them from time to time. That is what this moment is. This was the 5-year moment to review the trade and cooperation agreement. Instead, they brought things in like options for defence funding, spending money, paying in for SPS. That's just not right. That's not how we do any other trade negotiation.
Hi, chat.
We should not be doing them like that with the EU.
And your readers at home may be wondering why it is. If
get a load of this clown.
A genuine trade dispute arises about, for example, access to in the first 12 nautical miles of our seas. Why then would other businesses, other parts of the economy be punished by the EU whilst those disputes continue?
Well, it's not. You have mediation. It will go. That's what you have mediators. If there's a dispute, you go to mediation before you do sanctions.
This is why Kemi describes it as a lost opportunity.
Just ludicrous, honestly. You just get lost.
Then.
See, I knew I had a Sam Coates clip. I knew it. This is Sam Coates discussing this about the e-gates.
E-gates, I think viewers are going to be most interested in. And it's also one of the areas where there's the biggest gap between what I felt Keir Starmer was saying at the podium and what seems to have been agreed. So they're going to talk about what to do about that. And they note that European Union citizens could use British e-gates, but we can't do it the other way around sometimes. And what they're going to do is they're going to make it clear, the EU Commission, that there is...
I've got an announcement, but you guys need to wait until the end of the stream to hear it. So I don't know if it's a good announcement or a bad one, but yeah, it'll be dependent on you guys. Was she against Rishi Sunak? Nah, she wasn't. I think she voted for it. Starmer's going to have to take over the Tories. I mean, he already has.
There's no legal barrier to e-gate use for British nationals travelling to and from member states after the introduction of the European Union entry-exit system. In other words, the European Commission isn't going to tell European countries that we've got to use the EU queue rather than the non-EU queue in airports all around the EU. They're just going to say there's no reason why they shouldn't. So does that mean that things are going to...
So once again, it's up to individual countries like it's always been. Oh my God, this narrative around e-gates is crazy. Starmer's actually spread crazy amounts of misinformation on this. Wild, absolutely wild that he's managed to get away with this. And
is it?
I want to discuss Mr. Contempt for the Cond and all this shit. The reason he coined this phrase, in my opinion, is because he thinks he wants to be better than everyone else. He wants to be above the fray, kind of thing. He wants to be, sorry, you were scammed. It's not your fault when it was like. You fell for a very, very easy lie.
Is it time to abandon the compassion for the Cond element of our Brexit mantra? I don't know, because I might...
This is like literally feeling sympathy for people who fell for the Nigerian prince scam.
Finish the show today, I might get to 11:30. I might get to 11:45 and find myself thinking, this isn't fair. These people, old Steve celebrating.
Who cares? If old Steve, right, sold his house and sent the money abroad to some scam call centre, would you feel sorry for him? Or if he, was conned in a romance scam, would you feel sorry for him? Honestly.
In the fact that people who...
Yeah, but Roisin, he's Irish.
...understand things across on behalf of people who don't. Maybe I'll come back from the news thinking, no, it's not right. We need to be kind. We need to be compassionate.
Fuck off. Honestly, fuck off. Like, the amount of damage that these people have done, they don't deserve sympathy. You should be told, okay, look, you fucked up, right? You fucked up. How are you going to help us fix it at this point?
We need to extend the hand of friendship and the warm hug of understanding and empathy to people who've been sold lie after lie after lie by liar.
At what point do you say personal responsibility? At what point do you say, you voted for Brexit, you voted for the Conservatives twice. At what point is it on you as a voter to stop making shitty decisions?
After liar, all of whom will be queuing up today to attack Keir Starmer, moan the loss of non-existent freedoms and fail utterly to tell you exactly what it is that constitutes a benefit of the thing that they flogged you nearly a decade ago. Is it?
Yes, 100% it's worth abandoning it. You're just honestly, you're just encouraging that kind of nonsense behaviour. It's time to say to people, grow up. Grow up. If you want to put in more cool emotes, you want to grab a membership and you can get cool ones like this. I might add some more. I do want to add some more. I saw some artists. The Kai one's my favourite one. But yeah, I will try and add some more of these. Eventually. Damn, Casper member for 13 months. That's wild. That's such a long time, Such a long time. It's over a year. That's, yeah. If you want to be cool like Casper, you can. Oh, look at that! Alistair got a 2-month membership as well. He's been a member for 2 months. You'd love to see it. And yeah, if you want to be cool, look at that! Access to all the cool emotes. And I will be adding more this year. I just don't know which characters I'd want to add.
Time to.
But yeah, honestly, get this guy gone. He's just ridiculous. You cannot reason with the extremists, but many of the voters are not extremists. They're just extremely ignorant. Yeah, at some point you got to take personal responsibility for this stuff. You know, like this stuff here. It's all right, bro. Don't worry about it. Honestly, I appreciate it. A British fishing boat named Thatcher held in French custody days after Starmer's EU fishing deal. And so the thing with this is, like, they can still hold you over, customs or paperwork or things like that if there is an issue. Like, it doesn't change anything. And the biggest irony of this statement is the whole reason Thatcher envisioned the kind of single market was because she didn't want British goods stuck in the French ports. That's the thing she wanted to avoid the most. So that's why this story is worth covering. How do people take responsibility for being lied to? This is what pushes people to reform. You take responsibility by saying, look, okay, I voted for Brexit. It's a bad idea, right? Oh, thanks, Alistair, mate. Really appreciate that. You guys have got some free memberships. The GOAT, the MVP. I need to put that on the soundboard. How do you get people to take responsibility? So you say, look, you were lied to. You believed the lie, which is the important thing. What are you going to do about it? Because if you realised Brexit was wrong, right, voting for Farage is not the answer, because Farage is the guy who lied to you, right? That's like going back to a doctor who misdiagnosed you and you figured out you were misdiagnosed. You're stupid at that point if you do that. You don't go back to Farage, right? Who are the people who delivered Brexit? It's the Conservative Party. So you don't go to the Conservative Party. You don't go to the Reform Party. So what do? If you want to reverse Brexit, you've only really got two options, really. Potentially three, depending on how you view the Labour Party. That's what you got to do. You either the Labour Party, the Green Party, or the Lib Dems. They're your three options. If you vote, I think you're very wrong. About what? What do you think by telling people they were? If people accept they were wrong, or if people keep voting in this way, at what point do you take personal responsibility for it? At what point do you say, okay, like the people who back Liz Truss in the Conservative Party, do you say, oh, you were conned? Oh, it's all right, you were conned by Kwasi Kwarteng, you were conned. So not explaining the side chat, mate, come on. Like, like at some point you have to take personal responsibility for your voting decisions. Just like the people in the Conservative Party who voted for Liz Truss. Are you going to say, contempt for the con man? What was this stupid phrase? Compassion for the con. Like you're an idiot. Like, yeah, at some point you got to stop falling for scams. If you keep getting called by the Indian call center and you keep falling for it, that's kind of on you. If you keep sending them cash, that's on you. People have been told their vote would be upheld, and they voted for reasons you don't. Okay, what reasons did they vote for? What were the people have been told their vote would be upheld? We left the EU last time I checked. So people voted in an in-out referendum. We left the EU last time I checked. So that's been upheld. So what is your argument here? We left. We're not members of the EU no more. So that has been upheld. The era we're living in is a scammer's paradise for sure, yeah. Because this we have a generation of people who don't have critical thinking skills. People voting because they wanted to have their voice heard and stick it to the system. I'm not defending Brexit. It's clearly a mistake. You cannot just look down on these people. If you're still falling for scams this late in the day, it's kind of on you, Chief. It's kind of on you. People were voting because they wanted to have their voice heard. Their voices were heard. We left the EU. That's it. They were heard. People who voted for Brexit voted to put a peace agreement in Ireland at risk. They knew they didn't care. No sympathy for them. Like, if your whole point is this rhetoric will embolden reform, how will it do that? Like, people voted for Brexit. They got what they wanted, did they not? We've left the EU. Is that not what they wanted? Should we coddle them with kid gloves as well and say, oh, no, it's okay. You were lied to by Farage. You're going to vote for Farage again. Oh, no, it's okay. Because you are seen as sneering at people who are wrong. These people are wrong. If they acknowledge they're wrong, that's fine. If they can't acknowledge this late in the day, nearly a decade on from the event, that they were wrong, they're not gonna be approachable. They are not people who have the critical thinking skills to realize that they've been conned. They're a waste of time at that point. If it takes you over almost the 10-year mark to realise Brexit wasn't a good idea, then that's on you. I can't educate you. I can't educate such a person. You know, there aren't enough skilled teachers in the world to educate such people who are so blind to the fact they can't realise the reality of the situation. Because it's not stupidity at that point, it's ignorance. It's a choice. All the information is out there. You can get Chat GPT on the beat. You can get Google's AI on the beat. It's not on you. It's on the country when they vote reform. Can you not see it? It's not on me, Chief. If people are dumb and they want to vote for reform, that's on them. That's on them. There are consequences to voting. If people are idiots and they vote for reform, they vote for Farage, the guy who brought us Brexit, the guy who pushed the Conservative Party so far right that eventually it broke them. That's the guy you want to back. That's on you, Chief. That's fine. That's a decision you are making. You can't blame me for the stupidity of others. Should I talk to them with kid gloves? Should I say, "Oh, it's okay. It's okay, you know, oh, you voted for Farage, you voted for Brexit, you know, it's taken 4% off our GDP, it's caused massive economic problems, you know, but it's okay though, it's okay. It's okay, it's not your fault that you were scammed by a guy who sells scams all the time, a guy who will do anything to make a quick buck. That's not your fault. Stupid. Brexit vote ways advisory, but Tories want to push it through. That's true. And what happened? These people voted for David Cameron. They voted Conservative in 2015 because they wanted to force the EU referendum to happen. There were UKIP voters who voted for Cameron, so they wanted it there. They again, you've got Theresa May, whose Tories became the largest party in 2017, right? In 2019, they voted Conservative. Well, whose fault is that? I'm not blaming you for that. I'm telling you that sneering at working class people who can't afford electricity is pushing them to the right. You are I'm not. Are you telling me that it's just working class people who voted for Brexit? Are you saying that it's poor working class people who were just the specific people who were conned by Farage? The vote was not advisory. The government promised it was advisory. It was not legally binding. Therefore, it is advisory. So that's what you're saying, though. I'm telling you that sneering at working class people who cannot afford electricity is pushing them to the right. Do you know? The thing is, right, Martin, mate. I'm not sneering at those people. I'm not sneering at working class. You're making the assertion that mocking people who voted for who still support Brexit. You're saying that they're working class people who can't afford electricity. That's what you were arguing. That's what you were arguing via text. I'm not. You know, if you look at the side I've been on, it's the side of pay increases for working people. It is against the national insurance contribution increase that the Labour Party have done. It is to increase things like PIP allowance and things like that, things that benefit people that are also working class and help them go to work. So what you are arguing, Martin, is so stupid, so stupid. Honestly, you've kind of derailed me in this conversation to make yourself look like an absolute clown. You are not. Do you know what, mate, Martin? You are not a clown. You are the entire circus. You can resent the system, vote against the system, and stick it to the system, and still be conned. So you know, you vote. People wanted to be conned. That's fine. Like that's on them. If you keep backing, you're doing it now. I didn't mind. Like, mate. I'm being condescending towards you. Now, if you're a working class person who can't afford to turn the electricity on, that's fine. I am not being condescending to you because of your economic status or your social status or your political status. I'm being condescending to you, mine, because you're an idiot. That's why you are choosing to be a clown. You are choosing to be ignorant in a world where you have access to the internet. That's on you, Martin. Like, if you choose to be ignorant and you choose to vote for Farage, that's on you. That's on whoever votes for Farage. Our political system is shit. I'll 100% agree with that. But to make the argument that, you know, if you want to make the argument that the Conservative Party are trash and the Labour Party are trash, therefore we need to vote, you know, people are going to vote for reform, they are choosing to vote for a guy who has made incredibly racist statements in the past. I said Brexit was a mistake. You've read that out? Yeah. And so you're making the argument I'm condescending working class people. I don't get where you're making that assumption from. Like, I don't get where you're getting that assumption from. But that's up to you. What you've done is built a beautifully crafted straw man, and you've knocked it down. Wonderful job, spectacular work, my friend. That's what you've been doing. Oh my god, this guy's a fucking moron. This guy is so dumb, honestly, so dumb. It wasn't straw. It was a brilliantly built straw man, Martin. The whole chat saw you construct it, and you knocked it down. Phenomenal job, mate. Beautiful, beautiful work. Honestly, you've just embarrassed yourself for the last 10 minutes. Crazy work. But yeah, going back to people who are struggling, Martin, because that's what you're concerned about, working class people who can't afford to turn the lights on. Back down or we rebel. Up to 150 MPs joined the revolt against Starmer's benefit cuts. So yeah, there's an ongoing kind of potential revolt within the Labour Party, but we heard this over the winter fuel allowance. I don't think this is actually going to happen. So I honestly, we saw so much big talk about Labour opposing the MPs voting against the winter fuel allowance, and they weren't about it. But this is a man in Keir Starmer who said lifting the 2-child cap is his personal priority. He's Prime Minister. He could literally get this done. He could get this done today if he wanted. And what do we have here? Labour's flagship child poverty strategy has been delayed until at least autumn amid concerns at top of government the financial cost of key proposals outweighs political benefit. So once again, they are putting the impact on children and children who live in poverty at the cost of politics. Because the whole reason why they're keeping the 2-child benefit cap is because apparently it polls well. They've honoured the referendum, you absolute clown. They've honoured it. We've left the EU. What more do you want? This guy. Honestly, this guy. But yeah. Labour have delayed... honestly, I'm just not going to acknowledge this guy. Labour have delayed their flagship policy to deal with child poverty. And that's going to go into next year. So... It was due to be published in spring of this year, had been expected to include recommendation to scrap the 2-child limit, and I think they've delayed it again because they're not going to get rid of the 2-child limit. So, despite it being his personal priority, honestly, and on the economy, just discussing it quickly.
I mean, I get you're a little sceptical, are you not, of signs of any green shoots, any shoots at all. I think, Lawrence, but. I guess there was a lot of doom and gloom at the beginning of the year. Part of it self-inflicted. Some of that...
Who are Labour trying to please? It's mostly people that exist within the red wall, or who they're trying to please is the mythical voters they've triangulated through data effectively.
That does appear to be turning and providing some different political opportunities.
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't say that I'm against seeing some green shoots in this. I just think that we have to be very careful. The economy we've been essentially stagnant for 15 or more years. There have been moments, in fact, in 2019 and 2022, we saw upticks a little bit higher than this, and then it's returned to norm. There is a lot of damage to undo, and there are a lot of foundational problems in our country. For instance, some of the highest energy prices in the world.
It is the highest energy price in the world, I believe.
And other house prices far outstripping wages, and in fact wages now, weekly wages, you're about £13 better off in real terms than you were in 2008. This is absolutely disastrous. It is of course good when there are good signs, but good signs are only really showing that there's a turnaround when a pattern emerges, and so far the pattern has been continued stagnation and unfortunately.
And so when you continue the policies of the Conservative Party, you're going to have continued stagnation and other issues. Starmer is at odds with Morgan McSweeney about the 2-child benefit cap, and I think he's doing this as he's trying to blame Morgan McSweeney for the benefit cap. I think what he's trying to do is deflect it away from himself, because that's what he loves doing. Because when you look at this, him saying it was his personal priority to get rid of it publicly, and then this blame of Morgan McSweeney, he's trying to throw him under the bus. So if he does U-turn on this, he's going to blame McSweeney, I think. And you got Zara Sultana citing Gordon Brown here about the 2-child benefit cap.
Is abolishing the 2-child rule, because what the Conservatives did was introduce a ban effective way of getting more children.
A unicorn group they found through polling what about their base? Their base is probably what they see as kind of upper working class / middle class people who are on the housing ladder or looking to be on the housing ladder, somewhere in that bracket, I think.
Out of poverty, about 500,000 children out of poverty, is abolishing the two-child rule. Because what the Conservatives did was introduce a ban on any third child in a benefits family getting that £66 a week that they need to bring up their child.
And so that money it's not a lot, and that money goes back into the economy as well. So this is a policy done under Theresa May, which is incredibly toxic. The point where Scotland, they are mitigating it in Scotland, that specific policy. As far as I'm aware, because of the fact that it's such a big kind of generator in poverty.
So if you're in a two-child family, you get £132 a week, but if you're in a three-child family, you only get £132, and that means that you've only got £40 or so to bring up the child. Now, that is unfair because it's discriminating against the third child. But it's
yeah, pretty much. If you're not going to help them win the election, they don't care.
Also wrong, because the reason that people are in poverty are not that people are feckless and work shy and not dependent. 70% of the...
Okay. What was... Bro's wearing Nikes with his suit. Now get this gone. Get this gone.
Those who are in poverty, the children in poverty, are in working families where people...
He's not even wearing socks, man.
Simply don't earn enough per week to be able to bring up the children that they want to help.
It's also led to massive malnutrition problems, as well as kids not growing as tall as they should be. A massive height problem with kids in this kind of next gen.
And equally, when it comes to the two-child rule, 60%...
The Hillary Clinton strategy. Are you talking about his trainers, or are you talking about the Labour Party?
...of children who are caught by the two-child rule are in working families. And the others are basically families where someone's temporarily unemployed or sick or incapacitated for some reason, or mothers just can't afford the childcare that's necessary for them to be able to go out to work. So we were dealing with a wrong diagnosis of the poverty problem. Poverty...
We had this under, I think it was under the Bevan Review, there was the whole conception that people on benefits or on welfare or poor people were just spending all their money on cigarettes and alcohol, when it was proven that no, they were poor because they didn't make enough money, as in, they weren't paid enough. We had this conversation almost a century ago, I think, or near a century ago.
Used to be related to unemployment.
Honestly, with Gordon Brown, there are reasons why I'm not his biggest fan. But also, he's probably better than any Labour frontbencher currently. Because, he at least did the winter fuel allowance, which was objectively a good policy. And, he's been against the two-child benefit cap for a while. So as much as I think people, especially in Scotland, might dislike Gordon Brown, I still have a little bit of respect for him, because at least he's out here fighting for getting rid of child poverty, whereas you've got Tony Blair, who's out here arguing against net zero because he's funded by oil money.
Employment, it's now low pay.
He was Chancellor during the recession, correct?
And we've got to do something about it to help those families who are bringing up children. And even if you want to lay down conditions for the receipt of that benefit, you can't allow the children to suffer. And that's the point, I think, of abolishing the two-child rule. It's not been directed to the right problem because they've misdiagnosed the problem, but also people in working families, it should not...
Yeah, it's because that's what they get told. They don't understand what causes poverty.
Go without for the children in that way when they're...
Him and Blair followed Reaganomics neoliberal policies which stressed deregulation. That is true. There were issues with some of the stuff that he did. That 100% true. Stuff that's facts. I can't argue with that. I can't argue. I could argue that the recession would have been worse under the Conservatives. There were massive policy failings under both of them. Correct, 100%. There were massive policy failings, I think, in a lot of different countries regarding financial services. Canada being an exception to that because Mark Carney. But in this period of history right now, when we're discussing it, at least he's on the right side of fighting against child poverty, and he's trying to put pressure on the Labour Party to do the right thing here. And he's been consistent on this. He has been doing this since, whilst the Conservatives were in charge, once the policy was introduced. He's very much on the right side of this, at least. Blair started the housing crisis. Osborne added petrol. I mean, he added jet fuel onto that. speed running the Blair years, speaking of which, up to the Labour Party's insolvency, so the Labour Party's financial woes as party unable to balance books this year. So maybe they need to make some cuts. Maybe they need to make some cuts. Maybe they need to be more fiscally responsible. Maybe they need to cut whatever benefits party bigwigs get, things like that. Maybe you need to make cuts to conference, cut your cloth accordingly. Because if you can't balance the books of your party, what makes you think you can run the economy? Because apparently they are the same thing. He was PM during the recession. He was Chancellor leading to it. That's true, yeah. He was. Membership is created. Big corporate donors have fallen away. And you think, right, this is how dumb this guy is, right, Mr. Knight. First of all, you piss off a lot of your membership by doing dumb policies and bad policies, right? So you piss off your traditional supporters, so they don't volunteer for you, and they cut their memberships. I mean, to the point where you've got Graham and Supertansky, the people who said they would push the Labour Party to the left, right? These people have let their membership go because they don't believe in the party, and they have dumb policies against tactical voting, which is why Phil Morehouse left. Okay, so you got bad policies like that. You piss off your membership, right? Your traditional voters, you piss them off, right? So that means instead of getting the small donations you were getting per month, because I don't think a Labour membership's that expensive. How much is it? Let's have a look. Labour membership, because they stopped publishing the figures on the amount of members. So look. Where is my money going? We're built on contributions as our mainly dedicated members. Your membership fees pay for posters, leaflets, rallies, and events that you set up. Okay, let's see. If I go join today, I don't want to just give me a price, man. Honestly, I don't know how much it is. It will say it's £5 a month. I don't know. £5.88 a month. Jesus Christ, man! No wonder people cutting the memberships. Oh my god, that's ridiculous. What kind of stupid number is this? What? What is it? £5.88? Just make it £6. Nonsense. What? £2.96. These numbers are stupid. Just make them round numbers. Labour left me. I didn't leave Labour. That's what Scottish people have stated numerous times. If Brown had won in 2010, we'd have a moon base on the go. I wish. Martin, referendum, any votes, advisory. So yeah, he's bankrupting the party. He went for bogus. Okay, let's start this again. Piss off your membership and your traditional donors, the ones that when under Corbyn you had, I think it was 600,000 party members. So that would have been. Let's have a look at if we pull out the old calculator here. So if they paid the 588 times let's go 600,000. So you're talking £3.5 million a year, right? Say three is that three? Yeah, £3.5 million they're making off membership potentially, right? Say £3 million. Now you piss off all of those people, so a lot of them have left. They don't publish the numbers anymore. So let's say it's 200,000. I doubt it's even that high, right? So go 588 times by 200,000. So you're making about a million. 1.1 million, right? So that's how it should, so that's how much they're making, right, to run the operation, which it's going to be quite expensive because all the all of the experts you bring in and things like that. And now, so you put yourself in a position where you rely on big donors, yeah. You rely on big donors with fat wallets. So what do you do in that situation? You put up national insurance contributions that would piss off business owners. So you trick all these business owners, and now they're all pissed at you. That's why, during those big conferences, which conference was it? The one where all the businesses get together. It was earlier this year. I can't remember, or was it last year? I can't remember. But you piss off all of those people. So you're like, okay, let me go piss off all of these major businesses and things like that, right? They ain't going to donate to the Labour Party anymore because you've done them in with the national insurance changes. Who do you have left at that point to donate to you? Now, if I'm a rich dickhead who wants to win some influence, if I'm like, I don't know, my name's Ali and I might be a lord, for example, I would increase my donations to the Labour Party and win more influence and make myself the go-to guy when it comes to getting policies done. Not a cash for questions type thing, wouldn't be as corrupt, but maybe I've got a business or a charity people can donate to. Oh yeah, the trade unions as well. Yeah, I forgot about them. But if my name was Ali and I was a lord, that's what I'd be doing right now. Martin Arnold just stated the fact that okay, and so that's what I'd be doing if I was a corrupt person, and that's why I should never be rich. And now we've got Angela Rayner throwing her name into that. Angela Rayner urged Rachel Reeves to consider restricting access to the state pension for recently arrived immigrants. That proposal was included in the same memo that pushed the 8 tax rises. Rayner also floated making it hard for new immigrants to get universal credit and raising the fee that they must pay for using the NHS. The memo admitted the policy idea was contentious. It's the latest example for the power struggle at the heart of Cabinet and how Deputy PM is straying beyond her brief to change economic policy. And so you got to ask yourself this, right? People still like Rayner. I personally don't. Angela Rayner's pushing these kind of policies, which she's one of them. There's this idea that because she was part of Corbyn's cabinet, because she comes from a working class background, because she has a trade union background, she's still one of us. Nah, she's a class traitor. Let's be honest, she's one of them. She's as one of them as Rachel Reeves is, as Liz Kendall is, as any one of those characters. The only difference is she hit it better. That's it. Told my union, my dues are not to be put to Labour support. A lot of union members have done that in Scotland. Yeah, they'll have to be careful with the unions, because if people get really pissed off about it, that'll cause a problem. Because now we've got this. I just saw this article on Twitter, so it's worth bringing over. Inside Labour's plot to oust Prime Minister as he's given a 12-month warning to turn things around. So with these kind of articles, you always got to be careful with sourcing and things like that. Because you don't know who's spreading this information. But apparently Starmer took everyone by surprise when he suddenly announced the winter fuel allowance change. What's the date on this? 24th. So it's recent. So he's making these big policy announcements without talking to anyone. That's a major problem. Why is this screen? There we go. It's close button. He's making all these big policy announcements without telling anyone. Does she want to run for leadership? Yeah, I reckon she does. Yeah. There's the reason why she has stayed in this role for as long as she has is to boost her own profile. That's why she stayed there for as long as she has, in my opinion. So the shock move came as Starmer was trying to shore up power with MPs, senior party figures and trade unions who have been openly plotting to remove him. After turbulent 10 months, the Prime Minister's migration announcement earlier this month, where he laid out his plans to clamp down on the number of people coming to the UK, was seen as a watershed moment, quoting Enoch Powell. Now, a large number of MPs from the so-called soft left, God knows who they would be, are trying to force the party to change, with allies of Rayner urging her to organise a leadership contest. And the thing with Rayner is, her and Starmer are not friends. These are two people who've briefed against each other ridiculously amount of times. And so, her name's been thrown into the hat here. And so I reckon that's going to make her more of a target. The growing rebellion comes as around 150 MPs are considering standing against Starmer's plans for welfare cuts. I think that would be enough to potentially cause it to tank, depending on what other MPs do. But in an apparent attempt to undermine Rayner before any challenge begins, the Deputy Prime Minister has in the last 2 weeks been subject to a poisonous briefing campaign from rivals in the government, with a leaked memo about apparent tax rises, according with stories that she could be demoted. And so that was the last article we cited. So this is what happens. They start fighting each other when stuff comes out. There is now fevered speculation about a reshuffle with Rachel Reeves' line on the job. Let's fucking go. Let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of her. Honestly, go. Gone. Finished. I'd love to see that. I'd love to see that. Her get demoted into some crappy other role. Honestly. So, MPs arguing there's always a way back. It just depends on how late you leave it. One senior figure said party activists and MPs have been asked to swallow a lot in the first 10 months of this. I mean, okay, that's one phrasing. Winter fuel, welfare cuts, austerity, two-shot benefit, cozying up to Trump. But the migration announcement wasn't enough is enough moment. That's interesting. That's where they drew the line. Especially calling it austerity as well. In another headache for Starmer, many Labour MPs believe he has been too soft on Israel and should have ended arms sales long ago. So for people like Phil saying the UK doesn't sell arms to Israel anymore. He's clearly wrong on this, and he keeps being wrong on this. Panic is also setting in because feedback from the doorstep, according to a senior figure from the right of the party, is that there is a visceral personal hatred of Starmer as well as Reeves, because Reeves is the one that's caused a lot of damage here. Is the Labour deputy leader still... yes, I believe so, yes. So, one MP who has been a loyalist, how did the Tories do it? There is no way... there has to be a way to replace the leader. I mean, there is. You cause a leadership contest. Another party figure who helped the campaign during the Runcorn by-election said, "I am not sure the Prime Minister can turn things around in terms of his personal image with voters, but I'm not sure what the alternative is. You don't have any because you got rid of a lot of talent in the party. That's why you flew in a load of absolute goobers to run in the party's MPs. You got rid of people who would have been liked." But the rest of this is fluff. So in truth, the PM cannot sack them. Cannot sack who? MPs. I think Phil's argument in the past was that the Labour government hadn't sold arms to Israel yet, which is even worse argument. I mean, they have been selling arms to Israel, though. That's the problem. Like they've been flying this stupid ass spy plane, and that is, and compounding the problem is they're misdiagnosing the issue, which just 4% of Reform voters say they are likely to be considering voting Labour. So all of this, right? All of this they've done, all of these policies, right? I can tell you the exact clip I'm going to play here. All of these racist and stupid policies that they've done in order to kind of try and get these voters to come back, and it's not working. It's absolutely not working. So if we go for... Is all of this, right? That what they're doing, all of these policies, is for this.
All that for a drop of blood.
That's what we're witnessing. All of this, right? All of these bad policies that are pissing off people, right? That are really irritating people. That have lost you so many voters.
All that for a drop of blood.
4% of those voters are thinking of voting for Labour. 4. That's it. It's crazy. And ultimately, they're getting their strategy wrong.
Last year, Nigel Farage's party Reform UK cost the Tories dozens, maybe 100 plus seats at the election. Now it looks like Nigel Farage's party is hitting Labour too. But has Keir Starmer adopted the right strategy to deal with it? Right, this is the big picture from last year's general election, led to a Labour landslide. And now this is the situation from May the 1st this year, the council elections, which put Reform in first place. Success at the expense of Labour too.
So obviously it depends on what seats are being up. Also the fact that it's a local election which has different the way local elections work are very different to generals. It's very hard to compare.
So what would happen if we assumed that result was evenly replicated across the parliamentary constituencies where
you'd need an MMRP poll for this?
There were elections. This is where those county council elections took place in England, shaded in grey. And within these areas are 77 complete Labour-held Westminster seats. Or here they are in a list. It includes places like Wickham, where Treasury Minister Emma Reynolds holds, or Lincoln, where there is the Foreign Office Minister Hamish Faulkner.
Now, I don't know who these people are.
We map the county council results from May the 1st evenly across.
I would put money on Martin voting for Brexit.
These general election constituencies, almost all those Labour seats are gone. All lost, apart from 5 of them. Mostly, it has to be said, to Reform UK. And what if we took that swing?
Yeah, no, it's fine. Don't worry about it. No, it's okay. Like I could have banned him myself, to be honest with you. The guy was an idiot. But, I made him look stupid on stream, so...
And applied it evenly across the whole country. Well, we could even see Angela Rayner losing her seat in Greater Manchester.
Oh, no, anyways.
Liz Kendall, Jess Phillips in Birmingham.
Oh, no, anyways.
Gone. Now, yes, local and national elections are different. But it's worth noting that the YouGov national opinion polls paint a pretty similar picture to the local elections. Meanwhile, in 89 out of the 98 constituencies where Reform UK came second, Labour
It's McSweeney.
First, so Labour MPs are feeling the heat from Farage. And this man knows it. He knows the Reform UK threat is real. And he's chasing their voters. And you can tell this in recent announcements.
I humoured the guy for enough, Kieran, honestly.
Slashing aid spending, abandoning green promises, hard talk about immigration, and living on an island of strangers. So all of that seems sensible given the Reform threat? Actually not. Let's look at some interesting data. Right, this block here, this is all of the people that voted Labour in last year's general election. Now, thanks to YouGov polling, we know what people in this block now would do with their vote. And it shows Labour has lost more than half of last year's voters. Just 46% say they still vote for Keir Starmer's party.
So that's a big drop-off, and it's easy to see why, because their policies suck. It's not hard.
But
now, what's interesting is the SNP aren't here. I wonder if they fall under other. That's the only thing I can think of.
This PM's strategy, they're not actually going to reform UK in large numbers. Look at this. Just 6% of Labour voters at last year's general election, 6 out of every 100 say they would vote reform now.
So what that tells you is Labour's strategy is wrong. If they've only lost 6% of their voters to reform, obviously that can swing seats, like the ones he mentioned.
At all. So where have the voters gone? Well, they've lost much more of the vote to liberal and left-wing parties. 12% to the Liberal Democrats, 9% to the Greens. Just pause there. That means the number of Labour voters who've switched to the Lib Dems and Greens, arguably on the left of the political spectrum,
other people not vote, yes, true,
is 3 times the number going to reform on the right. Just 2% go to the Tories, but much more seriously, 22% aren't going to vote or don't know or won't say.
Okay, that's don't know. Okay, that makes sense. No, that's fine. They've just labelled it as that.
What they'll do is they'll vote. Disgruntled.
Yeah, the SNP did take a beating, but I think they'll do well in the Holyrood elections.
Ex-Labour voters who aren't happy with what the government is doing. The bottom line is that people who vote reform...
Yeah, I think it might be more of an English-based poll. I'm not sure.
...really typically have never backed Labour in large numbers. Now, this chart here, it shows how Reform voters last year voted in every election since 2005. And you can see Reform voters are former UKIP voters.
That obviously makes sense. That is not a surprise.
Or they're Boris Johnson's...
What? The guy's on my Discord? What? Oh, this guy. Okay, yeah, I remember him.
Tories. It's never been ex-Labour voters in anything like large numbers. You can see the red line down here. Or let's put it another way. While 11% of voters may one day be open to voting reform, 70% are at risk of going to Lib Dems or the Greens. 7 times the threat from reform. And typically, these voters don't like the hardline reform-leaning policies and talk of Keir Starmer recently. So here it is again. This box shows Labour's voters from last year's general election, and the colour is where they go now. There is a far bigger threat from the left and amongst those who might stay at home than there is from the right and from...
Okay, that's been dealt with, that's fine.
...reform. So...
English-based poll, yeah, I think so.
Data suggests that Keir Starmer really is trying to be like Nigel Farage light, but it might not be the...
Yeah, don't worry about it, that's fun. Yeah, don't worry about that.
The answer. Is Labour's strategy really working?
I just got a DM from someone. Let's load this up. From one of my friends. Yeah, let's put this. Oh, okay. I'll try and cover this at some point. So this is a video of a Israeli MP being forced to be removed from the podium after going against the Gaza war. It's subtitles, people. I can't. Sorry about that. So after a war where you killed, I'll just read out what's being said here. After a war and a half, after a year and a half of a war in which you killed 19,000 children. It's going to be very anticlimactic, my coverage of this. 53,000 residents. You destroyed all of the universities, and the hospitals, and and for you there is no political win. You feel there is no political win. That's why you go crazy. Why are you going crazy? Why are you weak? Why are you sad? Why are you not happy? Why? Because there is no political win. Because there's no end game here. That what they want to do is take all of Gaza. That's what they want. They want to take all the land. That's their whole thing. They want to take all of Palestine, and they want to take, I think it's Jordan is the other one they want as well. Jordan is the other country they want. No, they're removing this guy. The so-called only democracy in the Middle East. There's a guy protesting the war. He hasn't said anything wrong here. And they're forcibly removing him. They forcibly removed the guy for what? For democratically putting out his view. That's what I'm saying. So look, this idea that they're a democracy is a joke. It's a fascist country. That's who they are. It's ridiculous, honestly. But yeah,
we feel so.
Sorry, just gonna transition back. I just got to send that video by one of my friends. I thought it was worth covering on stream. Given that time out of day to send it to me. All of Gaza for the oil and gas. It's not really about the oil and gas, because that's only been a fairly recent discovery. I think what they want is for ideological reasons, because they see that land as theirs. That's why they want it. Greater Israel. That's it. They see that land as theirs. That's why they're thieves. That's what they are. They think that land belongs to them historically. And they see themselves as better than the native population who have inhabited that land for centuries. That's who they are. They're scum. Those people are scum. The worst people. But yeah, going back to this. These are these the type of voters that Keir Starmer is trying to get?
Dispossessed of our own culture when we walk through our own high streets. We don't see our own country. What else is it? Is it the fact that British identity...
What do you see then?
What do I see?
Well, when you're walking down the high street, you say, I don't see my own country. What do you see?
I see a country that has been so poorly governed for really as long as I've been alive, that it has been essentially the inheritance of the country that was built, cultivated by my ancestors, has been given away.
Okay, yeah, just your ancestors, buddy. Just white your ancestors specifically. Not European, not the Europeans that would be your ancestors. The ones from a different land here. The Celts are your ancestors, I'm assuming.
To anybody who who would come here, and the government has been the midwife to that project, and I think that it's only going to lead to destruction.
Down the street, you have very strange eyesight, I would say.
Well, I don't know if you've been to a town like Swindon recently, Ian.
Fun enough, I
What did you think of it?
About 2 months ago.
Well, there we go. And what did you think when you were walking down the high street, when you saw the graffiti, the litter, the boarded up shops?
So, are you blaming immigrants for graffiti and the boarded up shops? Like, what you want is more people to go to shops. So, therefore, you want more people in the town, especially ones that are working and have money, which, if you immigrate to this country, you'll most likely have to have, unless you're an asylum seeker.
And the
that's austerity. And you blame that on immigrants, do you?
I don't blame it on immigrants.
There's council cuts.
I blame it on the government, who has permitted this incredibly destructive.
So how to be racist without not being openly racist? A guide.
Policy of mass migration, which has.
You do blame it on immigrants.
So you're blaming graffiti on immigrants.
Immigrants. No, there's a very different.
So he's trying to say, look, I'm not racist, guys. I'm not racist. I don't blame immigrants. I blame the government for letting in the immigrants. Nazis in disguise. Yeah.
There's a real difference. Ian, let me finish. There is a real difference between blaming immigrants and blaming immigration policy, because I'm blaming the.
No. There isn't that much of a difference, because you're blaming. You're saying what one is a problem. You're saying mass migration is a problem, right? But then if you're saying it's a problem, you are blaming migrants in that case.
Government, because I think the people who have come here,
yeah, big up Flynn,
over the last 30 years are just following incentives. Why wouldn't you want to come to Britain?
Yeah, spray cans and planks of wood and nails to board up shops and to do graffiti.
It's the greatest country in the world.
The greatest country? How are we the greatest country in the world, bro? Like, by what metric are we the greatest country in the world? Is it by happiness? Because the Scandinavians have got. Do you know the Scandinavian? Honestly, right? Okay, look, happiest country in the world. We're getting beat. We're getting beat by developing countries. It is Finland. It's Finland, right? Finland's the happiest country, despite having, really bad weather year round, right? Happiest countries in the world, right? So if you're basing on the happiest countries in the world, it's not us. We're way down. Kuwait is doing better than us. Israel, or this would be would this be pre-war? Let's look. Countries that are happier than us: Finland, Denmark, Iceland, Sweden. So the Scandinavian countries basically got us wiped down. Israel, okay, fascists. The Dutch, Norway. So that's all of them basically the set. Luxembourg, Switzerland, Australia, New Zealand, Costa Rica, Kuwait, Austria, Canada, Belgium, Ireland, Czech Republic. We're getting beat by the Czech Republic. Lithuania. We're getting beat by countries who we should have, much better things in terms of what's it called? GDP per capita, right? If you look at our GDP per capita, obviously if you take the Scandi countries out, because they're ridiculous in terms of their GDP per capita. They've done really well for themselves, all of them, right? You take those out, getting beat by other Anglo countries here in Australia and New Zealand, Costa Rica, who they're not known for being the wealthiest country in the world, Kuwait, Austria, Canada, Belgium, Ireland. Ireland's doing okay, but budget's doing well. Big housing crisis, but okay. But so does the UK. So we're number 20. We're not even in the top 10. If we were in the Premier League, if this was the Premier League of the happiness scale, we'd get relegated. Absolute idiot, bro. But by what metric are we the best country in the world? When it comes to healthcare, we're not the best country in the world. When it comes to social mobility, we're not the best country in the world. By what metric are we the best country? Do you know what? I should have kept that. I'm gonna keep that tab up. We're gonna keep this one for the actual video I do on this absolute dickhead. Guys, yeah. By what metric are we the best country? Public services, no. Education, no. Health, no. Water quality, definitely no. 100% no. Most of the countries that you have mentioned, the universities are free, yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if you took out Scotland, if you did Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland and England all separately. I wouldn't be surprised if England was further down this list. Honestly, we're right by like the UAE. Germany, why are the Germans miserable? What's going on there? The French are miserable, that's not a surprise. I stopped clowning on them because they made a good game. Spain is 36. What's wrong? What's going on in Spain? Best at illegal wars. That's not true. The Americans are the best at illegal wars. The undisputed champions of that. Most of the countries you mentioned, yeah. So, simply not true. Go to our final clip, which is on the Conservative Party. So I'll probably move these over here. Move these over here. Yeah, no, this makes more sense. So we'll cover this one.
I wanted to ask you why
we got a guy who can't get a job as a teacher despite being his qualification and a teaching shortage. Second best at illegal wars, yes. We're really good at saying we should be top of the list than what being.
Back of the interview with Lord Rose, who of course is a Conservative peer with concerns about the direction that the Conservative Party are heading in, and I put to him the fact that the latest poll had the Conservatives in fourth place behind not just Reform and Labour but also the Lib Dems. How worried are you about that?
Well, as you know, I've said on the show for a number of times when I've come on, I think the Conservative Party is currently in a death spiral. I think it's that serious and it is existential, and the Conservative Party came...
Now, don't tempt me with a good time, Gullis. What I'm hearing right now, I'm very happy with this information.
his team and actually all members of Parliament need to have a quick, urgent meeting to figure out what on earth they're going to do, because it's been quite feeble.
It's over, bro. You were there. You were there when it happened. You were a part of it. You were one of the reasons why the Conservative Party fell apart. Like, honestly. So it's just ridiculous. You know, for this guy to be making these statements, it's just crazy to me.
From what I can see in terms of MPs, the shadow cabinet, I don't see enough of them putting up enough of a fight. I only see real Robert Jenrick leading the charge in that regard. I don't see enough backbenchers really going out their way to try and suck it to the opposition. They get so caught up in trying to be impressive in the chamber without realising very few people are listening to them there. Whereas in Nigel Farage is doing a social media clip from Reform HQ and getting over 700,000 to 1 million views on Twitter alone. So at the end of the day...
And that's one of the reasons TV channels keep platforming Farage, box office, when it comes to politicians.
There has to be a reality check here. The Conservative Party...
Are we Argentina or Japan? I mean, Japan's culture is very different. You know, the fact they're not up there makes sense. Argentina's economy is still pretty bad, I think.
As I say, fighting for its very survival. And if it gets to May next year, where we could come 5th in Wales and potentially even 5th in Scotland...
I'm not hearing the negatives here. I'm not hearing any of the issues with what he's saying.
And lose even more councillors, what donors going to want to give to the party, what voters are going to then think the only way...
You know, like, imagine that the first statement you make, you know, the Conservative Party doing bad, who's going to want to donate money to us? That's his main concern.
To stop Labour is to vote Reform. And ultimately, again, what's the future for the Conservative Party? I actually, for the first time in my life, don't have an answer on how to save it.
Because you guys are cooked, fam. It's over. What you have done, the damage that's been done to the Conservative Party is insurmountable, especially now you've got competition on the right wing. It's over.
Conservative Party.
Is it time for a change of leader? Which I know feels ridiculous because, you know, it's not that long
so
since
look, my problem is, in 2019, when Theresa May was, thank God, got rid of, it was quite obvious who should take over Boris Johnson. It is not obvious to me that whoever could come in after Kemi Badenoch could improve...
Give it Giggsy to the end. He's got an allegation against him.
...the situation enough that we would be at least level with Labour and level with Reform. So changing leader... creating more drama, creating more headlines.
Well, what choice do you have? Because you picked an absolute clown. He seemed... Yeah, I think he would fit into Reform. Him and Lee... I can't remember his name. 30p Lee, whatever his... Lee... I can't remember his surname.
Which is a gift to Labour and a gift to Reform. So my real fear is that actually it just needs the MPs to realise they're in opposition. You need to make a lot more noise, work a lot harder... and
Make more noise about what, bro? You need a message first. You need a narrative. You need something to rally around. You've got nothing.
You represent the membership who are crying out to actually see some fight.
So yeah, just the most ridiculous man. You know, and he sounds miserable. You know, like, but I'm so happy about this. Look,
you aren't showing it. I'm so happy. More than you believe, I'm happy. You aren't showing it. I'm so happy. Believe me. I'm so happy.
I'm so happy about this, honestly. More than you guys could ever believe. I'm so happy. So happy.
More than you believe, I'm happy. You aren't showing it. I'm so happy, believe me. I'm so happy.
Honestly, nothing will make me happier than seeing the end of that stupid-ass party. And you know, one further point on this stuff. Lee Anderson, that's it. Lee Anderson, okay. I don't think I'll ever remember his name. If I don't remember it after the third go, I can't. So anyways, last clip on this, which is sometimes you're not right-wing enough, and that's something Starmer's realising now, and that's something Farage is realising now.
Nigel Farage has been investigating an organisation called the Homeland Party in conjunction with the Times, which has said that it was...
No, I don't think that will work. I don't... A coalition like that would it's possible under PR. It's not. I don't think under first past the post. I don't know if it will. I don't know if the numbers would need something like that.
Was to solve mass migration with remigration. We all know what that means. Now, my colleagues...
So remigration means deporting people.
...have spoken to individuals who...
By the way, I've never heard of them.
No, I know. I'm not saying you did, but I'm just putting it to you. And they claim they've left your party, Reform, to join Homeland because of your fault.
Good.
Who's Homeland? Are they? Is it based on the boys?
Good.
Because of Rupert Lowe.
Great. Fantastic.
Oh, Rupert Lowe has got his own party. He's got his own party now, Homeland.
Do you know what?
I'm not having a tougher stance on immigration.
I'm going to go and buy a beer now. Our stance on illegal immigration is fair, reasonable,
what most countries in the world do and what we used to do until about 2010. Nothing that we do is based on loathing.
So you're saying the Conservative Party changed whatever this mythical policy is?
Or hatred of other groups of people, and that's the difference.
So you're happy if they trot off to Homeland Party?
Absolutely.
So yeah, sometimes you're not even racist enough for the racist, and this is it. Like, you got this guy here talking about the Homeland Party, and this is it. You're never right wing enough, and that's something which it doesn't matter how much you change. It's if you sometimes you're not right wing enough for Reform voters. That's what Starmer's is going to start realizing soon, and sometimes you're not right wing enough for the racists. Sometimes you got to be mega racist, ultra racist, to get them. And there was always a split brewing between him and Lowe. I think. I'm trying to see. I did release the video of him getting rid of Lowe. Oops. I did get rid of. I did do that. I think. So yeah. So I think. Yeah, is the Dublin 3 agreement. Did someone from Reform not talk about sinking dinghies? Yeah, I think they did before. I think it might have been a certain mayor. But yeah. No, trying to remember. Brain's gone. But yeah, Rupert Lowe was talking about Ben Habibi. You can't out racist the racist. I mean, they're going to try, and Rupert Lowe is a perfect candidate to try. Rupert Murdoch. Yeah, Murdoch would be a good one. Rupert Lowe is the perfect guy to try and pull a stunt like that. So that's going to be that's going to be that. But I'm glad there'll be more. The problem is with this stuff, right? The more I'm happy to see the right wing split on this. It's great, and that's what you'd want to see. But at the same time, it does push the Overton window again, because you definitely know this party's going to get traction, because Lowe was in the media already about the split with Farage, and Rupert Lowe will keep getting platformed by outlets potentially like GB News. Farage's best bet is to throw a tantrum and say, if Rupert Lowe's on there, I'm not going to be on there, seeing as Farage is the hitmaker when it comes to politicians in terms of views. So that should be that, I think. I don't know if there's anything you guys want to discuss further, because I'm tempted to jump off in a minute. Well, you might not barrage the Farage, but you defo can't get lower than Low. Classic. But no, I don't know. I've got so announcement is I bought some new kit so I can use my camera with a digital green screen. So I'm going to be on camera in a lot of the new videos that are coming up. So I'm going to let the current crop go effectively, and then I'll have new videos where I'll be on camera, because my brother he doesn't keep mentioning it, but he's mentioned it a few times, and other people have as well, about being on camera and stuff like that. I don't know if it makes that much difference, because I'm more of an audio person. So, for me, YouTube, I'm a listener more than a watcher. If that makes sense. But I think for other people, it's more of a thing. Buy a Windows license. No, I'm not buying a Windows license. So no. Especially Windows 11 coming out as well. Honestly, fuck Microsoft, absolute dickheads. I like Windows 10. Windows 10 is cool. Windows 10 is the MVP. Windows 10 is the best thing Microsoft have produced since Windows 7. 7, the OG, the king. They made Windows 8 washed, and now they got Windows 10 good. And you know what that means? Windows 11 is going to be trash. Windows 11. You know what? They put the taskbar. So instead of putting it here on the left side, where it's been, since before I was born, probably, they put it in the center. They replaced Software Center with company programs or some nonsense. I'll tell you what my opinion of Windows 11 is. I can tell you this right now. This is my thoughts on Windows 11. This is what it is. Utter woke nonsense. That's what Windows 11 is. Is literally, yeah. This is going to be me using Windows 11 and it not working properly. Utter woke nonsense. That's Windows 11. It's not a priority, yeah, but it'll be a good change for the channel, I think. Yeah, woke nonsense. But yeah, I was thinking about it for a while, but it's just something I didn't want to do. But I think it'll be fine. honestly, like especially on enterprise grade, they have messed about with Windows 10 loads, and they did cause issues, but they fixed it. But like the UI is nice. Like when I look at Windows 10, when I looked at Windows 7, I knew exactly what was going on. All the symbols are like they're not square. Like all of these like things are square. They've made them round. Like all the buttons are round now instead of being square, and I'm just like, get lost. Just get out. Whoever designed the UI needs to get fired. Honestly, get rid of the whole team. It sucks, and I have to upgrade to this in October, which sucks. And I have to. Oh, I just hate it. I can't be dealing with it, guys. I can't be dealing with it. But what choice do I have? Yeah, literally, it's the brother video. Let me see if I've got that one. Have I got that one? I could swear I had it. Oh no, that's upsetting. I thought I had it on the soundboard. What's this one? One sec, sorry guys. I'm just seeing one that's got a really long name on it. What's this? Oh yeah, the work for me one. That's classic. What's this?
We don't just sit
Oh
back.
yeah. No, I haven't used my soundboard properly in ages because it's just out of reach.
Demon just got.
Oh yeah.
My team.
Oh,
Enemy
yeah.
team.
Sorry guys, I'm just going through memory lane a little bit with setting up. Ah no, I do have it. Look.
Brother, what's that? What's that, brother?
Hopefully you guys were able to hear those. But yeah, no, I knew I had it on the soundboard because I used it before. So yeah. But I'm going to call it a day, guys. I'm going to be on Discord in probably about 20 minutes. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. I've got to install some new stuff in my computer, so I'm just going to be on Discord on my phone. So if you hear me get really angry, it's because of doing my PC upgrade. So be talking on my server. So it should be fine. But yeah, let me know. I've got like a wedding I need to go to tomorrow as well, so I've got lots of stuff I need to get done before I go to bed today. So it's going to be so much fun, and yeah, I've got so much stuff to do. So this will be me for the next 2 hours of my life.
More than you believe, I'm happy. You aren't showing it. I'm so happy, believe me. I'm so happy. Happy New Year.
Yeah, so happy, so happy.
More than you believe.
More than you believe, guys. More than you believe. I love this clip so much. But yeah. Yeah, no worries, guys. Yeah, 20 minutes. I'm just gonna eat, and then 20 minutes I'll be on Discord. So, yeah, I'll catch you guys then. Bye bye.